King Charles just signed the most radical decree in modern royal history. Behind closed doors, he finalized a historic order that completely rewrites the rules of the British monarchy. This single document permanently alters the line of command and removes several high-profile family members from power instantly. Palace aides are calling it the ultimate structural purge. The future of the House of Windsor has just been transformed forever. The historical ink. The fountain pen touched the parchment at exactly 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. King Charles sat at his heavy mahogany desk in the private study at Highgrove House. The room smelled of old book leather and fresh ink. Outside the tall windows, a light rain fell over the Gloucestershire gardens. The king signed his full name, Charles Philip Arthur George, at the bottom of a 26-page constitutional warrant. The physical document was a letters patent, bound with a thick purple silk cord. This is the most powerful administrative instrument available to a British monarch. It does not require a vote in the House of Commons. It bypasses the standard committee debates in Westminster completely. The king's personal private secretary stood to his left, holding a silver blotter to dry the ink on the final page. The signing marks a massive structural shift for the British monarchy. Under the traditional system established by the Regency Act of 1937, the line of command was dictated strictly by birth order. If the reigning monarch became incapacitated, the next adult in the line of succession automatically assumed executive authority as regent. This new decree establishes an entirely different set of operational rules for running the royal firm. The immediate fallout from this signature started before the document could even be moved to the palace courier van. A private security alert flashed on the private secretary's computer terminal at 3:15. A private chartered Gulfstream jet had just landed at a military airfield near Oxford without an approved flight plan. The arrival triggered an instant protocol response from the Royalty Protection Hub at Scotland Yard. Armed officers moved to block the runway exit gates. The individual inside the aircraft was the Duke of Sussex. He had flown from California after receiving an automated legal notification about the upcoming constitutional shift. He wanted to reach London before the document could be formally registered, but he found himself completely trapped on the tarmac. The tension inside the Highgrove study remained clinical and focused. The king did not answer his personal mobile phone when it began to ring at 3:20. He handed the signed letters patent to a senior legal archivist from the College of Arms. The archivist placed the document inside a secure steel briefcase fitted with a localized tracking beacon. Let us look at the hard institutional data behind this historic decision. The British royal family currently has only 11 working members who are legally authorized to represent the crown at official state functions. Of those 11 individuals, more than half are over the age of 70. The king's ongoing medical schedules mean the executive workload must be handled by a smaller, more efficient core team. The new decree establishes a mandatory active service threshold. It turns royal authority into a performance-based contract rather than an automatic inheritance. If a member of the family does not maintain a full-time residential base inside the United Kingdom, their names are permanently removed from the executive pool. It isolates the governance of the country from anyone living under a foreign legal jurisdiction. This operational purge caused an immediate wave of bureaucratic pushback from the old guard advisors at Buckingham Palace. The head of the Royal Communications team submitted a formal objection memorandum to the private secretary at 4 o'clock. He argued that removing senior family members from the succession pool without a public debate would trigger a massive media backlash in the Commonwealth nations. The private secretary dismissed the objection using the concrete facts of the royal prerogative. The king possesses the absolute legal authority to regulate the internal membership of his own household. The public funding provided by the sovereign grant is tied directly to active public service. If an individual does not perform the work on British soil, they have no statutory right to hold executive power within the state structure. The archivist left Highgrove with the steel briefcase at 4:30. The car did not head toward the standard administrative offices at St. James's Palace. It was directed to a high-security bunker at the National Archives in Kew. This is where the legal reality moves into a deeper constitutional layer. The new letters patent contains a hidden financial penalty clause that blocks more than just succession rank. It targets the underlying asset distribution of the family's private trusts. Who authorized the specific wording of this financial penalty clause? Why did the king feel the need to liquidate these private accounts at this exact moment in his reign? The answer involves a confidential legal brief that was prepared by the Lord Chancellor's office under a restricted government security code just 48 hours before the ink dried on the parchment. The Westminster Log. The Mercedes courier van cleared the security gates at High Grove at exactly 5 o'clock on Friday evening. 2 armed protection officers sat in the front cabin, tracking the GPS coordinates on a dashboard monitor. In the rear compartment, the steel briefcase holding the letters patent was locked to a floor fixture. The vehicle turned onto the main road toward London, bypassing the standard regional transit corridors. This specific route was planned to ensure total administrative security. At 5:15, the King's private attorney arrived at the Lord Chancellor's office in Westminster. He carried a digital authentication token. He needed to log the transaction under a secure filing code before the government offices closed for the weekend. The Duke of Sussex remained stuck on the tarmac near Oxford because his aircraft's diplomatic landing manifest had been flagged as invalid by the Home Office. The Palace tech team had deactivated his electronic travel token at noon. This administrative move prevented him from hiring a local transport vehicle or entering the Westminster district while the paperwork was in motion. The enforcement of this travel ban caused immediate tension inside the Westminster legal office. A senior clerk pointed out that blocking a member of the royal family from entering the city during a constitutional filing could lead to a judicial review. He argued that the Lord Chancellor's office should delay the official logging until a formal hearing could be arranged. The palace attorney stuck strictly to the statutory facts. He pulled out a copy of the Civil Aviation Prerogative Order of 1996. The statute allows the monarch to restrict the domestic flight paths of any private aircraft registered to family members during a period of active state restructuring. The Lord Chancellor's office had no legal authority to override a direct security order from the sovereign. The clerk relented and initiated the digital logging sequence. The system assigned the classification code Sovereign Shift 6 to the electronic file. This restricted classification completely removes the document from the standard civil service preview network. Only the King, the Prime Minister, and the Lord Chancellor possess the encryption keys required to view the full text. The creation of this secure barrier prevents any leaks to parliamentary committees. It isolates the transition from political debate during the crucial 24-hour implementation window. The file was officially locked into the High Court database at 5:45. This administrative reality leaves the California legal teams completely blind. They know a historic order has been signed, but they cannot access the text to look for legal loopholes. The strategy used by the King's advisors worked exactly as intended. They secured the legal foundation before any public opposition could materialize. While the digital files were locked down in London, the physical courier van arrived at the National Archives bunker in Kew. The archivist on duty checked the biometric seals on the briefcase. The physical paper was placed inside a temperature-controlled vault designated for restricted Crown documents. The Sovereign Shift 6 protocol does not just alter titles. It activates a rolling audit of all sovereign-backed asset trusts, holding funds for non-working royals. The audit is scheduled to begin at 9 o'clock on Monday morning. A new mystery emerged during the final phase of the Kew storage process. The archivist noticed that the letters patent contained an unlisted appendix on page 27. The page was signed by a senior official from the Bank of England, not a palace lawyer. Why did the Bank of England authorize a page inside a royal succession decree? What specific financial leverage is the king preparing to use against the overseas branch of the family? The answer involves an unusual electronic data request that was logged by the Treasury's cybersecurity hub just minutes after the London database went dark. The 12-year threshold. A senior auditor from the Bank of England walked into a secure meeting room on the 3rd floor of the Treasury building. The time was exactly 9 o'clock on Monday morning. He placed a gray plastic storage drive on the center of the desk. The Treasury's chief compliance officer sat across from him, holding a printed copy of the Sovereign Shift 6 order. The auditor typed an access password into his laptop terminal. The system displayed the unlisted appendix from page 27 of the decree. The document confirmed that the Bank of England had authorized an immediate financial freeze on 3 private accounts held at Coutts Bank. These specific accounts were linked to the personal inheritance funds of the Sussex line. The new order establishes a strict 12-year service threshold for all senior royals. Under the old rules, any direct descendant of the monarch could retain their sovereign-backed asset trusts indefinitely, regardless of where they lived. The new law changes that mathematical formula completely. If a member of the family remains outside the United Kingdom for more than 12 consecutive months, their trust funds enter a state of mandatory review. If they do not log full-time domestic duties within a 12-year cumulative window, the trust automatically dissolves. The remaining capital reverts entirely to the Central Privy Purse account managed by the King's Treasurer in London. The revelation of this 12-year rule caused immediate tension between the Treasury officials. The Chief Compliance Officer pointed out that the Duke of Sussex officially stepped back from public duties in 2020. His cumulative window of non-service had already passed the 6-year mark. By 2032, his legal right to any remaining Crown-supported assets will expire completely under the new law. The compliance officer argued that enforcing this rule retroactively could trigger a significant public dispute. He noted that the Sussex legal team would likely file an injunction in the High Court, claiming that the 12-year threshold violated their existing financial agreements with the late Queen's estate. The Bank of England auditor stuck strictly to the financial facts. The private royal trusts are governed by the Sovereign Authority Act of 1823. This statute gives the reigning monarch absolute power to alter the distribution rules of any fund that relies on Crown-generated revenues. Parliament does not own these assets, and the public courts have zero jurisdiction over the internal financial decisions of the Privy Purse. This data creates an irreversible barrier for the California household. They cannot use their commercial media contracts to offset this loss. The Coutts bank freeze blocks their access to the underlying sovereign capital that backstops their international credit lines. The financial pipeline from London has been fitted with a regulatory valve that the King controls completely. The auditor clicked his mouse and locked the gray storage drive back inside his briefcase at 10:15. The data transfer to the Central Treasury database was complete. The new financial boundaries were officially active within the British banking network. While the auditors concluded their meeting in Whitehall, a separate development occurred at the Cabinet Office in Westminster. The Prime Minister's private secretary received a high-priority communication from the British Embassy in Berlin. The German government was requesting clarification on the updated royal succession list for an upcoming European Security Summit. This administrative inquiry introduced the next mystery in the palace reshuffle. The Prime Minister's secretary noticed that the updated list did not just apply the 12-year rule to adults. It contained a separate, handwritten notation next to the names of the Sussex children, Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet. Why did the King include a specific notation for his American-born grandchildren in a document focused on working adult royals? What legal trap is the palace preparing to deploy regarding the next generation's future peerage rights? The answer involves an unusual electronic signal that was intercepted by the Downing Street cyber team at midnight. The Westminster Grid. A bright red alert light flashed on the network diagnostic console inside the Cabinet Office communications room at midnight. The terminal sits in a secure basement bunker below Whitehall. A senior network defense engineer immediately ran an automated tracing program. The screen showed an unauthorized data scraper trying to force its way into the Treasury's main royal accounting server. The network team tracked the location of the attack within 3 minutes. The electronic signal did not come from an ordinary political blog or a rogue domestic hacker. The IP address mapped directly to a private media conglomerate headquartered in Midtown, New York. This specific company had recently signed a production contract with the Sussex representatives. They were searching for the updated Treasury salary ledger to verify the Coutts bank freeze. The discovery triggered instant tension inside the cabinet room. The Prime Minister called an emergency briefing with his senior ministers at 8 o'clock on Tuesday morning. He laid out the physical copy of the Sovereign Shift 6 order on the long table. He explained that the King's new directive fundamentally alters the state structures. King Charles has officially instituted a mandatory active service clause. The new rule strips any family member of their position in the Regency pool if they have not logged full-time domestic duties within the United Kingdom for 12 consecutive years. This administrative strike immediately removes Prince Harry from his official standing as a backup ruler of the state. The Home Secretary voiced an immediate concern during the meeting. She pointed out that removing the Duke from the Regency list would require an amendment to the official parliamentary guidebooks. She argued that publishing these changes during a tense political season would spark a major debate on the floor of the House of Commons. Backbench politicians might try to use the opportunity to push for wider reforms to the monarchy's legal privileges. The Prime Minister countered her objection with the exact constitutional facts. The Active Service Clause does not rewrite the statutory succession line established by the Act of Settlement. That would require a full vote in Parliament. Instead, the order regulates the Executive Regency Panel. This specific panel is managed exclusively under the royal prerogative. The king holds the absolute right to set the performance criteria for his deputies without seeking a legislative vote. The ministers reviewed the physical text for another 30 minutes. They verified that the operational boundaries were entirely airtight. The cabinet officially logged the updated Westminster grid into the government registry at 9 o'clock. The political establishment had no choice but to accept the new administrative layout. This definitive move leaves the New York media team completely empty-handed. Their data scraping attempt failed to breach the core firewall. They cannot use official treasury figures to fuel their upcoming broadcast segments. The Palace tech team permanently blocked the foreign IP address blocks before the close of the business day. While the politicians finished their briefing in London, the focus shifted to the central registry safe box at Windsor Castle. The physical archives had to be updated to match the new 12-year rule. This is where the legal reality moves from government buildings to the private family assets. A new mystery emerged during this archive update. A clerk in the Lord Chamberlain's office noticed a specific entry on page 14 of the registry log. The entry showed that a team of private accountants had arrived from Edinburgh to audit the title deeds for the Duchy of Lancaster estates. Why did the king order a sudden audit of the duchy land deeds alongside the succession decree? What hidden asset is the palace preparing to secure before the autumn financial quarter begins? The answer involves a confidential safe box inventory that was delivered to the Windsor Vault just 2 hours after the Westminster meeting concluded. The safe box inventory. The clerk of the wardrobe unlocked the iron security cage inside the Windsor Castle subterranean vault at 11 o'clock on Tuesday morning. He carried a heavy ring of mechanical keys alongside a secure data terminal. He bypassed the decorative display cases holding the ceremonial uniforms. He walked directly to a reinforced gray safe box numbered 74. Inside this safe lay the original physical title deeds for the private estate properties in Berkshire and Norfolk. The clerk pulled a 3-page schedule from the safe box. The document confirmed that the 12-year service threshold had successfully triggered a liquidation protocol for the remaining capital assets held within the Sussex family subsidiary trusts. The physical reality of this inventory update caused immediate tension inside the Lord Chamberlain's office. A senior estate auditor pointed out a major complication involving the tax exemptions on the liquidated land assets. He noted that the trust capital had been mixed with a private inheritance sum from the late Queen Mother's estate in 1999. Separating the crown-backed funds from the private ancestral gifts would require a multi-year audit by the Inland Revenue. The clerk stuck strictly to the property facts. The Sovereign Shift 6 order contains a definitive separation clause written by the Treasury's legal counsel. The statute dictates that any asset linked to a non-working royal's domestic residence automatically becomes state-managed property if the property remains empty for 24 consecutive months. The Sussexes had officially surrendered their remaining physical claim to Frogmore Cottage the previous year. This fact allowed the king's treasurer to seize the underlying cash reserves without waiting for the tax audit to conclude. The financial data inside the gray folder confirmed the exact scope of the liquidation. The sum totaled £4,200,000. The money did not sit in an open bank account. It was held in short-term government bonds managed by the Bank of England. The auditor typed a confirmation code into his terminal, and the entire balance was transferred into the main Privy Purse Reserve Fund by midday. This absolute liquidation completely cuts off the remaining financial options for the California legal representatives. They can no longer use the threat of a public lawsuit to force a financial compromise with the palace trustees. The capital is gone, and the legal ownership has reverted to the reigning monarch under the ancient statutes of the Crown Lands Act. The administrative team did not stop with the central bond portfolio. They also reviewed the subsidiary asset lists for the local tenant properties surrounding the Windsor Home Park. Under the old system, the rental income from these specific cottage units was directed into a private maintenance fund for the wider family descendants. The new audit closed that channel completely, redirecting the revenue to pay for the upgraded cyber defense systems at Whitehall. While the accountants finalized the ledger entries at Windsor, the Palace Digital Security team monitored the final trace data from the New York cyber attack. The network defense team confirmed that the New York data scraper had been blocked before downloading the Treasury's main royal salary ledger. The firewall had isolated the server within 40 seconds of the initial breach attempt. The data logs showed that the hackers had only managed to capture a public relations calendar detailing the upcoming military reviews in London. They found zero actionable financial data inside the stolen files. The Palace press office quietly updated its security protocols to prevent a second attack from the same media group. The cybersecurity hub at Downing Street issued a formal report on the incident to the Home Secretary. The report proved that the security architecture of the sovereign ledger remained completely solid. The foreign media firm could not use official Treasury numbers to support their speculative broadcast segments. The legal wall around the family's assets was entirely unbreakable. With the digital threat contained, the focus returned to the physical ledger inside the Windsor archive room. The clerk of the wardrobe noted that the new 12-year rule had been officially stamped onto 32 separate property files. This permanent update ensures that no future administrator can reverse the financial liquidation without a direct royal warrant signed by the reigning monarch. But as the clerk locked Safebox 74, a final mystery emerged on the final page of the estate registry. The logbook showed that Prince William's personal private secretary had requested the physical delivery of the original 1937 Regency Act reference files. The request was marked with an immediate delivery deadline. The clerk looked at the signature on the order. It carried an executive tracking number that did not match the standard routine schedules of Kensington Palace. It was a direct, personal directive from the heir to the throne, authorized just minutes after the final bank transfer completed. Why did the Prince of Wales demand the historical reference files for the Regency Act right after the financial liquidation was completed? What specific constitutional step is the heir preparing to take during the upcoming weekend ceremonies? The answer involves a formal document that was loaded into a leather dispatch case at Kensington Palace just 1 hour later. The final execution. The heavy leather dispatch case landed on the center of the walnut conference table inside the Privy Council chamber at Buckingham Palace at exactly 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. Prince William unzipped the case and pulled out the original 1937 Regency Act reference files alongside a fresh 3-page instrument of execution. The document carried a gold-embossed seal from the Duchy of Lancaster legal office. King Charles sat at the head of the table, flanked by the Prime Minister and the Lord President of the Council. This formal gathering was an extraordinary session of the Privy Council, called with less than 12 hours of notice to the working members. The meeting was completely omitted from the public media schedules to ensure absolute operational security during the final phase of the constitutional transition. The Prime Minister picked up the instrument of execution and reviewed the final clauses. The text confirmed that the Sovereign Shift 6 protocol was now fully operational across every branch of the British state structure. The 12-year active service threshold had been formally integrated into the Privy Council's binding administrative guidelines. The integration turns the temporary active service clause into a permanent constitutional fixture. Prince Harry's name was officially deleted from the roster of active councillors of state. The legal mechanism does not just block his authority during the current king's illness. It permanently prevents his name from appearing on any future executive regency panels for the remainder of the current and subsequent reigns. The lock on the executive chamber was officially welded shut. The physical reality of this final signing caused a wave of sharp, clinical tension across the council room. The Lord President of the Council pointed out that the official announcement would go live on the government registry website at exactly noon. He noted that international news networks would instantly pick up on the deletion of the Duke's name from the state governance logs, likely triggering a frenzy of public speculation during the weekend news cycles. King Charles handled the point directly by referencing the hard statutory data. He noted that the Privy Purse had already completed the transfer of the £4,200,000 from the liquidated Coutts Bank bonds into the Central Royal Reserve Fund. The financial lines were entirely secure, and the palace possessed the absolute legal right to regulate its internal executive deputies. The public reaction would not alter the binding status of a signed royal warrant. The king picked up his fountain pen and signed his name to the 3 copies of the instrument of execution. The Prime Minister and the Lord President added their signatures as witnesses to the transaction. The entire signing process took less than 5 minutes. The historic order was officially completed, registered, and locked into the sovereign archives. The financial and legal isolation of the California household was now total. They can no longer look to the British legal system for a potential compromise. The new rules turn their royal status into a purely decorative title, with 0 constitutional utility and 0 access to crown-backed capital assets. The structural purge planned by the king's advisors had been executed with absolute clinical efficiency. The meeting adjourned at 11 o'clock sharp. Prince William took the signed documents and walked down the long corridor toward the palace registry room. He met with the senior royal archivist, who was waiting with a biometric security container. William handed the paperwork over, and the archivist sealed the container using a multi-factor encryption lock. The container was immediately loaded into a secure vehicle to be transported back to the high-security vaults at Windsor Castle. The physical trail was completely covered, and the digital files were hidden behind the Treasury's permanent firewall. The new corporate management model of the firm was officially the absolute law of the land. But as the vehicle left the palace courtyard, a final communication arrived at the private secretary's desk from the British Embassy in Washington. The embassy's diplomatic attaché reported that the Sussex representatives had quietly canceled their upcoming commercial media production meetings in New York. The data showed that the California team had finally accepted the reality of the Sovereign Shift 6 decree. They realized that their access to the palace information pipeline and the underlying crown funds had been permanently severed. They were shifting their focus to private corporate investments inside the United States, effectively ending their remaining public links to the British state. The radical restructuring of the British monarchy concluded without a single delay on the floor of Parliament. King Charles used the absolute authority of the royal prerogative to slim down the executive line and protect the crown from long-term institutional weakness. The Regency Council model is locked into place, and the next generation of leadership has officially taken absolute control of the state machinery. The future of the British monarchy has been permanently rewritten by the hand of King Charles. By signing the historic Sovereign Shift 6 order, the monarch has removed non-working royals from the executive line of command and locked down the family's private assets. The new 12-year active service threshold ensures that only those who serve full-time within the United Kingdom can ever hold constitutional power. This radical decree marks the most aggressive modernization of the crown since the mid-20th century. Bypassing parliamentary debates through the absolute authority of the royal prerogative, the king has built an unbreakable wall around the daily executive power. The institutional impact of this sudden move cannot be overstated. By enforcing a performance-based threshold, Charles has effectively transformed the royal family from an automatic hereditary privilege into a clinical corporate model. The liquidation of the £4,200,000 from the Sussex family's subsidiary, trusts, proves that the palace is no longer willing to fund individuals who operate outside the working circle. This financial consolidation permanently cuts off the remaining legal and diplomatic fallback options for the California exiles. The lock on the executive chamber is officially welded shut, leaving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle entirely isolated from the palace information pipeline and the underlying crown funds. Instead of waiting for a public crisis to force his hand, King Charles executed this defensive strategy with clinical efficiency. The implementation of the permanent firewall protects the inner workings of the state from foreign media conglomerates and data scrapers. It ensures that the transition of authority to Prince William, Princess Anne, and Prince Edward remains functional and total. The next generation of leadership has officially taken absolute control of the state machinery, proving that the survival of the crown will always override personal family ties. The traditional succession handbook has been permanently updated for the modern era, leaving the monarchy smaller, tighter, and completely insulated from external pressure.